In TF2, the subject of best weapon is always a tricky one to tackle, as there's simply no way any side can be truly objective in their claims. Main, playstyle, experience, etc., all this can taint the way any one person thinks, and so opinion usually remains fairly divided. For us heavy mains, when it comes to primary weapon, the debate is quite strong. And while the heavy has many options for his mighty minigun slot, there are two weapons that are generally considered to be in the running for the title of best minigun. Go on, say it with me, we all know what it is. The Tomislav versus Stock. You see, these two weapons are fierce weapons, and are representative of two very different styles of heavy play, with the stock representing the defensive heavy, holding the line for the steady push, and the Tomislav, the faster and more accurate offensive heavy, pushing the flank and picking off the enemy in decisive one-on-one combat. But, what if I were to tell you that a third weapon were in the running for best weapon? That the debate duet was actually a holy trinity of Soviet suppressive fire. What if I were to tell you that the Natascha was just as good as the stock and Tomislav? Now, I know some of you are thinking, some of my more avid viewers are looking at my Manco Armory series and saying, you gave the Natascha a 6 out of 10, whereas you gave the stock an 8 out of 10. And the Tomislav video, which has not yet been released due to some complications in order for me to collaborate with Big Joey, it will come out with the Tomislav being rated, and I know I'm giving a bit of a spoiler, but 9 out of 10. So, you know, you can't really quite reconcile the difference in the rating, can you? But there's actually some really good reasoning behind why I think the Natascha is just as good as the stock and Tomislav. To start us off, let's talk about the basic essential of any weapon: damage. The miniguns are powerful weapons, meant to make a big impression upon the battlefield as they shred any opponent foolish enough to take on a spun-up heavy. The Natascha is no exception, despite popular belief. The Natascha does do 25% less damage from the stock, giving it the lowest DPS of any minigun. But is that really as bad as most people think? Let's look at the numbers. The stock minigun pulls an excessive maximum of 540 DPS at close range, more than enough to shred a fully overhealed heavy in a second. The Natascha does 400 as its maximum. 140 less DPS, meaning that an overhealed heavy will need approximately another quarter of a second to be beaten, if you can survive that long. Surely, that would be enough to show most people why the Natascha doesn't belong in the upper echelons of primary weapons, right? Well, consider the following. The Tomislav's maximum is 432. A measly portion above the Natascha's, a gap easily cleared by a tiny handful of extra shots. So if the low DPS is enough for the Tomislav to handle well, then surely it is enough for the Natascha. Oh, wait, what was that? There's a reason that the Tomislav is somehow supposed to be better than the Natascha, even though there's only a 32 damage difference in DPS? Oh, right, it's more accurate, so landing more pellets and rolling out faster makes it not need as much damage, right? Well, if increased accuracy is what you're looking for, the Natascha has you covered there too. You see, the Natascha and the Tomislav both increase accuracy, just in different ways, providing different advantages to their particular styles. The Tomislav's tighter stream is better for landing more pellets on a single opponent at longer ranges, able to, at medium to long range, handle 1v1 encounters much more efficiently. But the Natascha uses a slowdown effect to make tracking the enemy much easier, allowing you to land more shots at close ranges, which is an area that the Tomislav fails to handle entirely, and the stock struggles with against experienced opponents. You see, even with the devastating close-range power of the miniguns, any more mobile opponent can simply jump over you or circle strafe you, spinning you dizzy as your bullets aimlessly strike everything that isn't the brave boy beating your head in with his melee of choice. The problem with the miniguns, with that most of them have, is that despite the fact that their best power is at point blank, the ability to use it is crippling due to the fact that the only thing you can do is spin while everyone is just running around you in circles, making you dizzy as hell. The most effective damage range of the miniguns is almost impossible to use, except for the Natascha. The Natascha punishes any opponent's mobility, taking their reliance on their ability to outmaneuver you and shutting it down completely. So by improving the tracking of a heavy and allowing a heavy to use their best damage range more effectively, it actually handles accuracy in a much better way than even the Tomislav can, because the miniguns weren't designed to be used at long ranges. Damage falloff does not permit you to really make use of that. But a weapon that increases your accuracy in a way that allows you to use your highest damage potential, that is much better than being a sniper heavy. So, with that, I've explained how the Natascha's damage, while being the lowest of the miniguns, is still a devastating force, compounded by the fact that it is the only minigun that allows you to really utilize the best damage range. So there's only two things left that can really hurt the Natascha's standing, and I intend to discuss them both. First is the spin-up penalty. The Natascha does spin up more slowly than the stock, which takes about 0.862 seconds to rev compared to the Natascha's 1.3. And it certainly cannot match the rollout mobility of the Tomislav, with its 0.638 spin-up time allowing you to b-hop rev for an extremely mobile heavy. However, that's because this minigun is not designed for you to run. It is designed for a heavy to hold the line, and force the enemies into situations they themselves cannot run out from either, due to slowdown. Essentially, the spin-up penalty may not be the best thing to have to deal with, but it isn't the worst either. The Natascha is far from having the Brass Beast's mobility issues. It just simply requires a little bit of forethought from when to spin up. Secondly, there's the question of sentry busting and the heavy 1v1. While the Natascha isn't the best option for either of these, it can certainly hold its own if handled right, especially with its damage resistance, which allows a Natascha user to take quite a bit more damage than the average heavy. While alone, it's not quite enough to take the full sustained force of a level 3 sentry or an opposing spun-up heavy with a higher damaging minigun. If you can manage to land the surprise on your foes, you can bet that Natascha can and will carry you to victory, and with just a little bit of support can become a nightmare for the enemy team, especially when paired with a Kritzkrieg or a buff banner. The extra damage combined on an inescapable weapon being absolutely devastating to the enemy team. So, having heard all this, I'm sure some of you are wondering, that's nice and all, it's nice to hear that the Natascha actually has some use, but how does that make it into the top tier of miniguns? How does the Natascha break the fold and become part of the debate of stock Tomislav and Natascha? Well, let's stop and consider what it is that makes the stock and Tomislav considered to be as good as they are. These two are perhaps some of the most well-balanced and useful options in the game. The stock, of course, being the stock. It has no weaknesses, it has no particular situation in which it's supposed to shine. It's supposed to just be the general use, standard issue, good for everything minigun. Whereas the Tomislav allows you to be a lot more mobile, allow you to be a lot more efficient in a 1v1, have a little bit more range, be a lot more sneaky, and just have that extra rollout, which is always useful in a game that is all about mobility. So, what makes them great is the fact that they are versatile, the fact that they are not quite limited by situation. They will always have a use in a match. And I believe the Natascha has that as well. See, the Natascha is very, very good at controlling enemy movements. It is very good at stopping rushes and preventing retreats. It's very good at making picks when you need to. Whenever you have someone you don't want to escape, like an enemy medic trying to run off to a health pack, you can stop them. A enemy sniper's trying to take a couple shots at your team, give him a little hits of the Natascha. It's going to stutter him around, throw off his aim, screw him up. Is there a pyro trying to WM1 down your team with a crit flog? Run them over with the Natascha. There's never a time when being able to slow down the enemy to prevent them from being able to rush your team or get away to the next point to hold it down. There's never a point when that is not useful. The Natascha is overall a good weapon through and through, taking hold of the defensive heavy principle and making it really, really shine and really, really strong. And for that reason, I believe it deserves to be considered, along with the stock and the Tomislav, as one of the best heavy weapons that you can use.
Alright, okay, Scout and Heavy's been dealt with.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. It's something I thought of and I figured it'd be something I'd want to say, and I hope you guys agree with it, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have anything you want to say, if you disagree with it, or if you just have something you want to add, feel free to tell me in the comments section. Other than that, please like, subscribe, and share my videos, and thank you all for all the support you've given me. It's been very helpful, and my next couple videos will be out soon. I plan on doing a video on how the Dolocus bar is going to end up becoming the new meta of the heavy. I firmly believe that, and I do hope very shortly I will be able to get out that video with Big Joey Slapnuts on the Tomislav. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and have a nice day.